right, guys, welcome back to the Command Your Brand Show. I'm your host, Josh Silvestro, brand ambassador of Command Your Brand. So in this episode, actually, I have a very special guest speaker who I'd love to talk to, who's kind of an interesting guy that I think a lot of people kind of take advantage of, but kind of would like to get to know more about. So he's actually an inventor. He's a doctor. He's just an all-around pretty, kind of looks like Mark Ruffalo a little bit, but he kind of looks like an amazing person. So I'm glad to have my chance to interview him. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Dr. James Denito. Thanks for joining the show, James.
Pleasure to be here. Can't wait to share some information with everybody and help make the world a better place one way or the other.
Exactly. So I guess let's just start off for the audience here. So my audience are usually a lot of people who love to listen to other entrepreneurs or other people like yourself. Would you mind introducing yourself and just like also tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, I was born in a manger in a little town in Bethlehem. Actually, it's a little bit facetious, but my parents were entertainers and they were very smart people. They met at a musician's picnic. My mother was on her way to become the next Doris Day and Mary Clooney of the 1950s and 60s, and then kids came along. But I had an aspiration to be a doctor since I was about 5 years old.
Wow.
I guess when any of us have an answer when you're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up in life at that early of an age, it might actually be a calling. There's a lot of things people can do, but I think only a handful of them are perhaps a calling, which means you might have some extra gifts, some extra talent that has been given to you to go in that area there. And I went into the chiropractic natural type of doctrine. I made that decision around 11th or 12th grade. And have never looked back. I have a lot of medical history in my family, and they were all very supportive. And been down in Texas 43 years practicing this way. And I'm glad I'm down here because this made a lot of connections for me. We have literally seen patients come to our clinic from all over the United States and 6 or 7 other countries. Now, what makes that happen in chiropractic is that there's specialties here. And so we took up the specialty of like internal medicine, family diagnosis, and we employed all these other healing arts that can be complementary to natural healthcare, acupuncture, massage, Ayurvedic, energy medicine, etc. That diversity of all the different healing arts was so discombobulated, especially when we were dealing with our cancer patients, that I made a poster. It was called Future Health, and we made a lot of them, still probably giving them away the rest of my life. But it was a visual depiction of the world's healing arts, kind of like a genealogical study. And it became, we hired out an artist to put some of this together. And it was really amazing because from across the room, it looks like a piece of modern artwork. But up close, you'll spend a lot of time reading it because of how all the threads connect together. So ultimately, many people with scary health conditions can be overwhelmed by all the choices. And so this gives them a map, almost like in the mall, and you can put a couple of pins where you are, and then you begin to see where you haven't been and helps lead you into other areas. So that was kind of one of my first creations. I've done a lot of inventing on healthcare products, a birthing squatting stand for women delivering at home, an element for protecting children's heads from impact called the baby bumper bonnet. These are not really on the market right now due to a lot of the, let's just say, financial constraints of keeping insurance up on something like that. Have created a story. I wrote a book probably originally over 20, 25 years ago. It was challenged by Ted Turner. He had a contest called the Turner Tomorrow Awards. And he said, somebody write a book past the year 2000 shows a positive outcome for humanity. And you only have so many weeks to get it done. It has to be so many words. So I accepted the challenge and wrote a book. It was called Majestic One. And it's still on Amazon. You can find it. And it was kind of a science fact book, almost like a Dan Brown. I used it as an excuse to put a lot of interesting facts that I'd collected over the years with my connections to military and other scientists. And we were only one of a couple thousand participants. I didn't win the $800,000 prize, but someone in Texas did. So we kept it in the state down here. But I finally got that book out and republished, and it's due for some upgrades on the cover. But we have that set to be a trilogy. And when I have some time in life, it's an interesting concept, have some more time. The only way I can see getting more time is to fulfill my promise of living to be 130. And by then, I might have 2 lifespans to get everything done that's on my, it's more than a bucket list, you might say. So the healthcare system was a good foundation for me to meet a lot of people. And I made a lot of interesting connections, especially to things that were science fiction and now becoming reality, conspiracy. You name it, we were able to give people some perspective on it. And a lot of these things that people wonder about, like, are we alone? Or what are they doing to the skies up there with those airplanes? And who shot so-and-so, this assassination, that? When you look at all of those things, they really all have a lot to do with your health, because in the end, our health, our lifespan, our diseases that take us out eventually. And nobody dies of old age. You die of a disease one way or the other. I don't know if old age exists because you wouldn't age and then you would suddenly die. Boom, the switch goes off. Insects are that way. So go think about that. They're here and then not. But everything else has an aging process / a disease process in there. So if we start looking at the immune system, therefore, as the foundation of keeping us alive and vibrant, quality life and quantity, we can study all kind of nuts and bolts about it, the nutritional needs, the things that stress it out, and yet the role of the mind, the emotional self, the ability to be happy, purposeful, loved, anticipatory, a warrior, so to speak, instead of a fearful person in flight all the time. Now, everybody's in flight because everybody's fat. And that's one of the biggest things that happens is you gain all this cortisol type of stress fat on your system, because it's a very efficient way for surviving tomorrow, what may not come. But if you stay in that positive state, that mindset spills down and it keeps your immune system at a smoking hot level, and it can just get past anything, fearless, get past COVID, you name it. And so when there's doubts and there's fears and there's worries and there's uncertainties and people don't know how to address these things, it's what etches away at your immune system. So all the things that I've been learning about the world and now sharing with our podcast, The Perceptional, we are using that to give people empowerment to live longer and a better quality life. There's a lot of nuts and bolts about how to live longer. I can tell you what vitamins and minerals, a lot of great tests to prove what you need. But the person might go, yeah, but why would I want to do that? What's in it for me? It's almost like a director in a movie script trying to give the scene to the actors and what their motivation is, so to speak. Because if you say to people, well, you can live to be 130, like I want to do, they're like, do I want to live that long? I don't want to outlive my kids. I don't know if Social Security is still going to be around. I don't know if I want to be a drooling vegetable in a wheelchair. You see, Steve, all these excuses out here. Our biggest one is I think the world is such a crappy place. I'll keep my language clean today. It's that they're not sure they want to be here. There's a lot of end times living in people. And so to be a healthcare provider, a doctor, which means learned one or teacher, you have to be able to teach people about the world, not so much, hey, here's what's happening to your liver, you dummy. You didn't take enough this or that into your diet. You got too much alcohol. People know all that stuff. Everybody's doing all the wrong things because they're not motivated to do anything better. They're living in a state of fear. So that's really where the healthcare system that I entered, the natural one, the chiropractic one, gave me a lot of opportunities to do all these natural, let's just say, holistic things. I've got many medical doctors in our clan. We do a lot of different things medically in my office, like stem cells. We have a full medical pharmacy in there as well. So we don't ignore modern medicine. But what we found is when I have a subject, a patient of mine that has a great response to a protocol, maybe their tremors went away with a simple nutrient or two. Then they go back to their medical doctor, and in this case, a neurologist, and he's like, whoa, how'd you do that? Because my drugs weren't doing that. And some of these doctors will call me up and they say, how'd you do that? And then when we tell them the nutritional thing, you know what they say to me? Well, I'm going to have to send them to you because the board won't let me do that, or my insurance company won't let me do that, or the hospital board won't let me do that. This is terrible. We're a sick country. And so if I had gone into medical nutrition, even if it was just medical degree, I wouldn't have got the perspectives I have right now. So I think I've been given an extra purpose, maybe more of a mission. Everybody's got a purpose. I think if you want to be spiritual, we all have purpose.
Right.
Even some of the most despicable people on the earth, they serve a purpose.
Right.
But there's not a lot of us maybe with a mission. And if you get a mission, I think you got to feel protected. You got to be humble, and you should do it. You should not be afraid to go forth, take risk. And there's things that I take risk with when you're doing what I do, both financial risk and even health risk. But anyway, that's a long but very concise reason as to why I'm here today, still in a healthcare practice, but expanding out into a wide variety or range of other ways to improve the world. So we can talk about any number of those other ventures that I'm invested into or even partnered into if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I know you said a lot in the past 10 minutes, but what was kind of interesting, I kind of stuck out a couple things was just, that you're in the chiropractic zone of things. And that's what I love to talk to people in that area, because I have actually a lot of friends that are in that area. And what do you find as a chiropractor or like or someone that helps people with their body type things? What do you find that people they do things wrong that they come to you for help with?
Most people will come in our office, not maybe 2 out of 3, with an orthopedic issue, ache or pain. We are a referral-based practice after the first year. 42 years later, beyond that, we've had every single patient, over 10,000 of them, that came in by referral. We don't advertise. So you're doing something right. But still people come in with orthopedic issues and chronically or reoccurring, even if something else has worked on them. But then there's a third or so that say, I need help with cancer. I need help with my kid's autism. I need help with the skin rash of mine. And chiropractic is always going to play a role, a 10% role or a 95% role. But ultimately, when we look at the physical body, we say, look at you. This is your posture, your physical body. Look in the mirror at it. It's a result of 5 pathways that got you there. We can certainly put a certain genetic signature to it. That doesn't mean we have to be a victim of it. We have posture habits, any of our habits, but mostly posture habits. We have trauma history, and God knows there's more of that than ever since we started driving cars. We choose trauma because we play sports. We take amusement park rides. We fall down on ice, and you name it. But there's metabolic things that are chemistry, nutrition, environmental, that change your chemistry. And then the thumbs up one is the mind again, the role of stress, depression, psychology 101. So when we get people in and then they say, how did I get here? Everybody wants one answer. They want to say, just tell me the thing I did wrong and I promise not to do it again. And I said, look, you bent down to pick up a pencil and your back went out and you've been on the floor for 3 days. Okay, so don't pick pencils up anymore. There's no way that it's just one thing. Everything is accumulation. This is the nature of reality. Everything reaches a critical transition and then boom, it goes. There's one more snowflake and then the avalanche happens on there. And we all know this. Everybody says this can't go on anymore. Something's got to give. We're at our breaking point. Everybody knows there's a point, and then suddenly you sick. Suddenly you hurt. So what we give you is homework in all those categories. And from there, you got to figure out how to clean it up. And when we see that person becoming part of the healthcare healing process where they are partnered, I'm not supposed to do all the work. Now, that's how medicine works. They say, you come on in here and we'll fix it. You don't have to do a thing. Just listen to us. Like COVID, do what we say. Go home, cower in fear. Don't take any of that nutritional stuff. We tell you that's not only not good for you, it's bad. Lies. And then you go take an unproven drug against your will. Never mind the history of that, of violating your rights of everything. And then what could go wrong with that? And wear a mask. And so when you see that, people did that. A lot of people did because we're not in the position of being used to being part of the healing process. We're used to our doctors saying, I am the learned one, and they're not. There's a lot of intelligence in medical doctors, but when you have the wrong intentions, what is your intention? To make money? To satisfy some malpractice board? And that's the problem. I get it. I understand that if everybody were to listen to me and be healthy tomorrow, the economy of the world would collapse, because in America, 1 out of 4 jobs, and there's a lot of ways of defining that, has something to do with us being sick. So what am I going to do if our economy collapses? Everybody's healthy and we're all sitting around pointing fingers at somebody as to what went wrong. So we're feeding on each other. We feed on our diseases parasitically almost. And, there's other ways we can move that into the economy, but I don't have all the answers for that. So I understand it's a slow process that we take people who want to be healthy and we'll guide them, but I am going to try and force somebody's health down their throat. Who am I to judge the person who dies of emphysema at 40 years old? They enjoyed the heck out of 3 packs of cigarettes a day. That was their journey, and they're content with that. Maybe not the last few weeks, but they make a choice, and it is what it is.
Yeah. I had a question. I've heard stories, like, I don't know if what your religious background is, but like, you hear about all these different religions and they do different things, right? And, I don't know if you're familiar with Buddhism at all. Like, they talk about past lives and there's like the spirit and all that stuff. Do you think, because you mentioned about the mind and how, like, being stressed out could be one part of it. Do you think the mind is directly related to people who get sick, or they actually have troubles with their body? Do you think it all relates to that, the mind or the spirit?
There's a lot of people who want to separate body, mind, and soul into even further. They want to separate soul and spirit. And there is layers. There's no doubt that there's something inhabiting us. When you're in this business this long, and you get miracles, you experience some of them yourself, even you are part of them. There's just no doubt that our consciousness goes on, and it's right here all around us. Now, some religions don't allow for that, which is kind of sad. Most do. And then when you think about coming back, and if you happen to have almost a curse of your prior life, we're not supposed to remember all of that. For instance, if some child is growing up saying, and they're a boy, and they're physically a boy, but they feel feminine, what would it take to say to them, look, something's slipping through from your prior existence here when you were a girl. Sorry about that, but look at you. You're a boy right now, so you got to embrace the body you're in. What if someone just were told that instead of saying, let's give you a sex change operation and cultivate that, because we see how bad that's turning out. These are just concepts that are metaphysical, but they're beyond often a lot of religions sometimes. So I don't know if we carry a baggage, because genetics can be overcome. We call that epigenetics. But if we carry a spiritual baggage, like, are you a natural born killer? Can you be brought into this world, since you've had maybe multiple existences, carrying with you some kind of mission to just be destructive to the world? I would say we can probably not argue that some people really are bad at a very early age. But if we want to wind it back when the soul was created, that's where we believe everything was light and pure and of love. And so its journey, therefore, has perhaps gone into that level. But then we're all taught to the religion about forgiveness. So if we think about the ultimate act of forgiveness, where a person remembers that they are that original clean soul, the only way I judge that is when, as kids, you say, hey, cowboys and Indians, cops and robbers, I'll be the bad guy, you be the good guy. We didn't care. We played a role, but we didn't take it seriously. And now we have that same thing in video games. We can take any number of characters on and step out of it, say that's not real. So what if that really our worst nightmare people on this planet are just playing a role that maybe even the strongest of souls gets to play the baddest of people, so that they can have the strength to come back to the light and be good. So I think it's still choices then, therefore, if there is something that you bring into this life. And ultimately, I've seen some pretty nasty people still pretty healthy. And there's some really good people that are they're like Mother Teresa's. I treat them. They're missionary type people, and boy, do they suffer physically.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to sometimes connect that part of it, but at least we make everybody improved by taking the steps that we can offer them in diet and lifestyle changes.
Yeah. That's so interesting because it was a good point that you mentioned about like, I know you just kind of said a whole bunch, but like just the fact of, you know, there are good people, there are bad people, and they do, some people have a different ability of like how they handle the body. And some people who are bad, they tend to have nothing wrong. And then the good people have, whatever is going on. So, and it's kind of interesting is like you mentioned about how the mind just kind of can affect the body in certain ways. And I think it's kind of interesting.
Well, think about some of the things that are happening in the minds around us right now that has led to so many drugs. The kids who are anxious, that's the biggest thing our children have is anxiety. What is anxiousness? It's a form of fear. It's a lack of understanding of something, which gives you a feeling of what is it going to be? Tell me what's going on. They got nothing to be anxious about. Their world is easier for them than ever with what us prior generations have done. And then the older generations that are all walking around depressed on antidepressants. And if it's not that, you're laying in bed with your eyes open, staring at the ceiling because you can't sleep and you can't turn your mind off. So we've really got a lot of a journey to go through to control the mind better. I've learned some techniques very early in life. When I was in 11th grade in some of the advanced placement classes, my instructor was also a professional hypnotist. So I learned self-hypnosis when I was 16 to 17 years old. There was methods then. One was called the Silva method, which when you mastered it, you could actually have enhanced telepathic properties even. So I think if the only way for us to master some of these problems of the mind right now, certainly there's hardware problems. So we say, look, your brain's not going to work if it doesn't have enough of nutrient A, B, C, D. We know that. But, and then even some of your behaviors throughout the day, the more we sit, instead of being physical, the more the mind is not going to get its balance, so to speak. When you think about ancient traditions, yoga from India, Tai Chi from and Qigong from China, they move the physical body. They stretch the physical body. The mindset there is the flexible body creates the flexible mind. And you see those people taking a break from reality, and we've abandoned that. We have a few things, go spend a lot of money for Pilates studio or spend $100 an hour to have a massage therapist work you over, if you can afford it once a month. But, we can embrace some of these older techniques. There's no doubt we can do that. But what we want to do is say, look, none of that's really going to work if you don't get the nutrition right in your head first. So B vitamins, think about the B vitamin family. We know A, B, C, D, but we have B1, B2, B3, B17, et cetera. But if we look on these charts, and there's big charts that the drug companies use to map every single metabolic pathway in your body, and you put little pins on there, red pins for B1 and blue pins for B2. You put all that together and you step back. Here's what it is. Out of all the things that B vitamins do in the body, more than half has something to do with the nerve system. So there's a lot of things that if you just got on a natural and balanced B complex, wow, what it would do. And then the other thing we do is a lot with fish oils, fats of the right kind. Fats are important. Your brain is more than 50% fat. But if you were to see what kind of fat, is it French fries fat? Not really. It's going to have to be some of the healthier fats. And we're pushed away from those too. We're told not to eat them. It's going to clog up our arteries.
Yeah.
So, these are all tools, but again, you just got to get someone who comes in and says, I'm ready to be healthy. And that's usually, why the referrals work. Someone's asking around, hey, you look healthy. What did you do? And then they find their way to our office here.
Wow, that's wild. I guess what I want to also go over too, because I know we're kind of, we're almost toward the end here. Because I would like to talk about also you're an inventor too, so I'd love to hear what you've invented. But also, I'd love to also talk about because you also have your own podcast. Is that right?
Yeah. So my podcast, we've got. I think we're putting our 15th issue out. We're going to start doing 1 or 2 a month.
Nice.
You'll be able to see it on a number of platforms. It's on YouTube, but right now we're starting to go through. Patreon. There'll be probably $1 a month subscription, very affordable.
Yeah.
Got to pay for all the studio time here somehow. But ultimately, we have no shortage of guests that want to come on that I've met over the years. And so that'll be one thing that I think we can get a bigger audience. It's nice to help 10,000 people.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that when I look at like politics right now, everybody says, look, the economy's in shambles and we need to do something. One of the most fundamental things about our financial stresses in the country right now is our energy, the energy that runs your car all the way to what's producing your food. So 9 years ago, about a month ago or so, 9 years ago, though, I got involved with a dear friend of mine who has over 20 some patents in oil and gas. And he came up with a new idea to frack, to stimulate an oil and gas well, to get that out without having this mess and expense that we have right now with water, sand, chemicals, et cetera, that has driven a lot of the environmental pushback against oil and gas. And we are now over the finish line in terms of proof of concept. We have found a way to harness a lightning bolt and send that energy 10,000 feet in the ground and emit it into an explosion that resembles a sun nova exploding, and crack the rock. And then, boom, the oil is going to start flowing. So we're going to start having rigs built out within the next 9 to 12 months. And we've got all the major oil companies lined up, including the biggest company in oil, Aramco, one of the biggest companies in the world. Everybody knows this is coming, and we are really excited to be at that forefront of that. So I've been stewarding that growth over the years, and as a president of a fund that helps some of the money go in there. Yeah. So we are really, really excited because what this may do is cut the cost of energy 30 to 50% as to what we can do. Never need to drill a new oil well again. We got millions of old wells that are going to go back in with this new tech and get all that reservoir out. I don't know if people notice, but when you drill a well, you leave 80 to 90% of the hydrocarbons in the ground because that's how inefficient fracking is today.
Right.
And then I've also invested into a company, another brilliant friend of mine in cybersecurity and tech. And he has developed an innovative way of taking blockchain and, number one, reduce its energy consumption, because everybody says these machines, especially AI, but blockchain uses a lot of energy. And if we want that to be the foundation of transferring information, he's found a way to use new code and quantum computing techniques to bring the efficiency of blockchain's communication to such a high level that there's no excuse for it not to be used. And the state of Texas declared a number of years ago that we were going to lead the world in blockchain technology. And we are like 8th or 9th largest economy in the world. So we're in a good place to do that. So I've been helping him bring partners in to bring this, and he's going to start through real estate. But what this is going to do is, if you think about another expense for you when you think about housing and buying commercial property, buying properties, is the expense and time involved. And ultimately, this technology is going to cut your costs 70 to 90% and get you down to 2 or 3 days instead of 2 or 3 weeks to move real estate. And it's basically an endless game of musical chairs of an economy, but it's a big part of the economy.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to have some of these amazing inventors and people that I'm a confidant of them. So I was just on the phone with the oil and gas guy the other day, and we were talking some technology things that we're constantly innovating. There's just a lot of tech. There's a lot of things that have never been done before. Some of it's very dangerous. My son almost lost his life from an explosion in April. Wow. That he was near. He's our chief engineer up in Cody, Wyoming. So there's a lot of great things that have been brought to the world that had prices to pay, unfortunately. And we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen to our people. But it was a real close call. And talk about, again, the principle of being purposeful and then having a miracle in your life. He's an example of how that shows you that things sometimes are guided and protected.
Yeah. One thing I'm kind of curious about, because, I'm sure probably people ask you this, and, a lot of the audience here kind of struggle with this. How do you manage your time as you run your own office? You are an inventor, you run this whole fracking technology. Like, how do you, as like a CEO and like a business type person, how do you actually run your whole life with that? Like, it just seems it almost feels impossible. I'm also kind of jealous of like how much time I feel like you have in a day.
Well, Some people make me look lazy that I know, but
Wow.
it's just a matter of, I mean, I use a little calendar here and there, but I guess the ability to multitask, put things off that have to be, there's an art to procrastination as to when something has to be done. So, yeah, when you think about all the hats I'm wearing, you just say, okay, on Saturday, I put an hour into doing this project or that project. And I also do a lot of physical things. There's a reason I look this good at almost 67 years old, because I'm
Wow.
not afraid of some hard work.
Yeah.
You got to say, if you support the body nutritionally, but then you do what a man's supposed to do. And so I'll be wearing some heavy duty clothes and working in we have a park outside of our office, an acre of wooded area, and I'm cleaning up those trees. I bring a crew in sometimes. I'm not afraid to do my own lawn. I'm not afraid to get up on a ladder and change a light bulb because I'm the landlord. And so there's just times you say, okay, this is the day I do this. This is the day I do that. Now your question is like my wife. I drive her crazy because she just says that's too much. I can do one or two tasks in a day, and then I get overwhelmed by it. So it's kind of dizzying to be around me here, but I think if you think about people who have even more on their plate, like the President of the United States,
Yeah.
then you just learn to bring people around you that help make it so that you don't have to micromanage everything too. So I surround myself with some good people, and that could be my staff at the office, all the way to just what friends and family can do for you too.
Right.
But I am kind of pushing the limits here. I'm going to have to cut back on my practice in the next year or two once I finish about 45 years, because by then I'll be probably doing much more full-time podcasting, as well as being very involved in building out the oil business. We have $1 trillion company we're going to be building out when this thing gets full momentum, because every single oil and gas well in the world will be using this technology, and we've got to help get it there.
Yeah.
So it's very and Elon Musk, if you're listening, I'm trying to reach you to bring you in as an investor right now, because I know you're a Texas boy. But anyway,
well, there you go. So awesome. I mean, I think you answer a lot of questions, and I think it's really amazing to have you on. I guess one of my last questions here is, how can people reach out to you? How can people find where you are? How can just kind of get to know you more, and just to kind of maybe work with you, or if Elon Musk is listening to this, how can he reach out to you?
Yeah, actually, we have people who know him, so we'll reach out to him.
Yeah.
I would say, because we got a lot of websites out there, but I think if people want to focus through the business part, just go to LinkedIn and you'll find me under Dr. James Denito. And from there, there's links to our healthcare, our fracking technologies, our everything that I'm involved in. You'll find links through there, and it'll just build off from that point on.
Awesome. Well, Dr. James, I really appreciate the time that you've taken out of your really extremely busy schedule. I don't even know how you're alive. But I really appreciate the time that you've given, just, on the questions, on the physical side, the spiritual side, the fracking side, all those sides, so I really appreciate the time you've given us to kind of learn from you. I think it's really, really good.
Pleasure being with you here, and maybe we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I think everyone who's listening to this, I really appreciate your time, and of course, listening to this really helps me out. So please like and subscribe to us, and definitely if you like more of James, and if you want James to be back on, definitely let us know. And of course, if you guys want to learn about how to get on podcasts, type in www.commandyourbrand.com and have a chat with us. All right. Thanks so much, James, for joining us.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
All right. You too.